I'm your host, Connie Whitman. You know, I'm happy that you're here. As you listen to the show, listen, my guests and I get that word. When you hear that word change, we go into a tailspin, right? Some of us panic. Some of us think, what now? The other shoe just dropped, whatever it is, no matter where you are. Truly, truly, my guests and I do care. And we really want to help you navigate change and whatever that means for you. It's so much easier when we choose the change, but oftentimes the change is thrust upon us. So my guests and I were here to give you strategies, tips, and ideas to navigate that change with a little bit more ease and grace. To help you on that journey of change, I have a communication style assessment. You'll see the link in the show notes. It's my gift to you. You will get 2 reports. One will spotlight your natural communication superpowers, meaning how people are receiving your messaging. Flip side, your lowest score, you'll get a secondary report, which really spotlights that blind spot. Probably important to really look at that report because it will give you information about people you speak to that do not communicate like you and how are your messages landing. We kind of want to be in control of that. So again, link is in the show notes, my gift to you. Now, my quote to set the stage for the conversation with my guest today is by Gavin de Becker. And Gavin says, intuition is always right in at least 2 important ways. It is always in response to something, and it always has your best interest at heart. So this notion of intuition leading our career in business is very intriguing to me. And I've seen it at work, both in my career and business over the past 4 decades. And every time it happens, I'm surprised. And then at the same time, I'm in awe of the experience, right? I can tell you it never gets old for me because our intuition, universe, whatever you want to call it, it's talking to us and guiding us. So I want you to join my guest. She is an intuitive revenue strategist. And we're going to discuss today how psychic intuition can give your business a competitive edge. Wow. Discover real world examples and ethical considerations in this game-changing approach to business strategy. My guest, her name is Bethany Londyn. Bethany empowers businesses and leaders with psychic insight for rapid plateau-breaking growth in 3 months or better. Sign me up. An internationally recognized intuitive healer, she specializes in elevating consciousness and shattering financial and well-being limits. Bethany contributes to the Global Healing Projects Being One and is the author of Get Aligned Now, a guide to high performance through inner wisdom. Please help me welcome my amazing guest, Bethany, to the show. So Bethany, thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me.
I know, excited. This is my jam, man. And this is the show for me. I get to talk to people like you who are not only changing us as the individual, the personal piece of us, but really helping us amplify our professional career, business, whatever it might be, as the whole, right? As the person as a whole. So I love meeting people like you.
Yay.
Yay. All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to combine this psychic intuition with that whole business strategy. It's fascinating.
Yeah. So about a decade ago, I got heavily into personal growth and personal development. It was about 3 years after a divorce, I must admit. So I think there was a lot of work to be done. Mm-hmm. And in that amount of time, that was probably about 1.5 years worth of coaching. And like, I became a transformational coach, certified in all these things. And all these people were like doubling their income with me. And then I started getting into the healing aspect of it. And people were calling me the billionaire catalyst coach or something like that. I'm like, sweet. Like, I can't wait to work with a billionaire. So I just was like owning it and realized I had this gift of coaching and loved it. It's so rewarding. And then coupled with the intuitive stuff that I started doing, one of my friends like, Bethany, you're so psychic. I'm like, no, I'm not. She's like, yeah, remember that dream and this and that and the other. And I'm like, oh. And so it's almost like when she said that kind of stuff, it gave me permission to open that channel and to open the gift. Because before that, I was like, no, I'm not. And so that coupled with the coaching that I was already doing just was like, so good.
What's fascinating is I think that we're taught that if you're woo, you can't be in business, right? And if you're in business, be hardcore. You can't have the woo. And I remember, so my spiritual journey started, it's like 22 years ago, right? So it was about 40. I had just had my kids, I had my second child. And I started getting these emails about law of attraction. I had never heard of that. What the heck is that? Meanwhile, as you learn, right, I started seeing, oh, that did happen to me. Oh, that did. So it happens. It was happening. I didn't put the microscope on it to see it for what it was. So anyway, I started learning about this whole spirituality. And one of the executives in one of my training, they were a longtime client, right? I worked with them for almost 20 years. She had come into one of my trainings and said, you know, you've changed. And I said, oh my gosh, I have, not even realizing I have. And I said, good or bad? She goes, really good. She said, I heard you say, and then she started repeating back things I was saying. And she goes, you know, that's life. That is so true. When we're dealing, I do sales, right? When we're dealing with our clients, don't we need to deal with real life stuff? And she said it was so resonating with her. And she said, and the other cool thing, right? Because she was in the audience of the classroom. She said, everybody was like waiting for your next breath and I was like, really? Never realizing the impact when I blended those two. For me, I guess it was more natural because it became a part of me, never realizing I was articulating that in these corporate training sessions, Bethany. What a difference. And that's when I realized lean into the woo, because we are humans and we crave this knowledge and this information. And holy crap, you could bring that into the business realm and help me increase the trajectory of in my case, sales, right? Using this kind of common knowledge. We all have it. We don't know how to tap into it. Just like you said, your friend gave you permission. You were like, no, I don't do that. I'm a businesswoman. And yet how well you've blended the two. So I just love that. I love that story. That's so cool. And it spotlights that we all have this. You probably have more amplified than I will ever have, but we all have it in us. You just have to understand how to get there, right?
100%. I always say we're spiritual beings in a body. In fact, one of my clients, she's like, oh, that's my human talking. The human, the 3D, you know, we're not above egoically, but being able to see like the bigger picture kind of thing, or like what's really happening for us. Cause a lot of times we just become victims to whatever's happening in the world.
We think it's happening to us. Yeah. Not for us.
That's my human self talking. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm going to steal that. Tell your client, I love that. Do me a favor now, define intuitive revenue strategy. And so it's kind of your thing, but what makes it so unique or different, and kind of how does it work?
Yeah, well, there's plenty of psychics out there. Mm-hmm. So what I would say I do first and foremost is different from the psychic world. Is a psychic can be just like, yes, make this decision, don't make that decision, da, 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 da. And yes, I can do that. However, let's just bring it back to a relationship. I have had people come to me and they're like, hey, is someone cheating on me? And I'm like, instead of me looking into that, because it feels really heavy to even look into that intuitively or psychically, let's heal anywhere on you where you would attract someone that's cheating on you, right? And then see how the situation changes. So take that like simple example and bring it into business with intuitive revenue strategy. I realized in fact, I didn't start focusing purely on the businesses and the corporations until 2020, which was extremely easy. Surprisingly, I had been told to focus on businesses back in 2013. So in 2020, when I started doing it, people were they were having epic results. However, talking to somebody else about what I did was kind of like a discomfort because the woo aspect, they're like, oh yeah, I'm working with a psychic and she totally doubled my income from 8 million to 16 million, like no one wants to say that. And I don't want to take full responsibility of it. So what I'm doing as the intuitive revenue strategist is I am seeing where the opportunity is and I'm clearing. So when people work with me, they become more intuitive because what I'm doing is I'm clearing their energy. So they're like, one person I was working on, when I tuned into their energy, it was like they were standing in quicksand and it was like black mud. Oh my God. And so they were just totally stuck. So you can imagine as I energetically am shifting that, then they are becoming more clear. And so then opportunities can come in, kind of like feng shui. It's like feng shui for business, let's say. because I'm just cleaning things up, putting them in their places, and then that creates room for more opportunity to come through. So that's when the revenue just starts to spike.
I love it. And that's the thing. I know myself, forget about even just business and life. You're at a crossroad and you think, okay, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, right? We have options, which are a beautiful thing. But when you look at your feet, I always say it's like muddy water because you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. So paralysis, we do nothing. Versus when I have in my life have talked to someone like you, afterwards I'm like, and they're like, you knew it. And I go, I did. Now I could see my feet. I could see the clarity of why I need to move in that direction. So sometimes we're too, it's the old, you can't see the forest from the trees concept. It's the same thing when we're so close to it. We're in the mud, we're in the quicksand. That poor thing that broke my heart when you said that. But on the flip side, there's hope, right? To remove that sucking the life out of you and being able to move forward with confidence. And that's really what we're talking about, right? It's, what to do. You're just not sure how to do it. And you're that clarity piece, like you're the bridge of clarity. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, I definitely am a bridge of clarity. And then just knowing that as the energy is shifting, that you are becoming more intuitive. So you're going to be quicker in making decisions. You're going to have more clarity of which way to go and how one decision is affecting like so much because sometimes we're just focused on one little thing and not realizing like the impact of that decision.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's a whole ripple effect too after
you
you do that clearing, which is kind of that's the trajectory or the quick trajectory forward because you've cleared this up, so everything becomes super clear in that ripple. What are some of the basic of psychic intuition in business? What are some of the common misconceptions about using psychic abilities in business? You kind of mentioned it. Are there some misconceptions?
Well, first off, just I want to say so many CEOs actually like Steve Jobs and I don't have them all off the top of my head, actually use psychics, but they aren't talking about it. It's not really well known. I actually found one article where it like admitted all these like different CEOs that have worked with psychics. I was like, yes, I need to put this in like my toolkit here. So yeah, it's just not, people don't want to admit that they're getting support. And as a CEO, when I'm working with CEOs, like they are the ones responsible for it all. So they are in the power position. So as soon as somebody like me comes in and is like, well, we need to go this way. I've worked with like some startups and they're so focused on this way. I'm like, well, the business is going this way. They don't want to be told that. They don't want to be. So there's like an ego thing that happens with them wanting to be the one to make decisions and choosing the way. And then here I am, some random person coming in being like, well, this is intuitively what I see is open for you. So there's like disregard to the ego, really. That's all ego. And that person that I'm specifically talking about, a year later, they did shift and go the way I was sharing.
But it took them a year
it took them a year to get on that track. Yeah. But they're doing it and I think they're crushing it.
Better late than never.
Yeah, exactly. It's divine timing. And I always say there's never a right or wrong. So, I was working with someone last week and I was like, oh, it feels really heavy for you to go to Thailand because they were trying to decide if they wanted to move to Thailand or Dubai, or come back to the States because they're nomadic in their business.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, Thailand feels really, really heavy. But the thing is there's a conference or something that they wanted to go for their business. And so I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to do that anyway, based on, how it felt heavy, you want to shift the energy, like go into meditation, go into some, get really clear on what you want to happen in Thailand so that you can pull in the energy of like peace and harmony and like everything going smoothly. So it's like, even though I give information, you can still obviously make your own decisions.
Free will.
Yeah. Free will. So I think really it all has to do with the ego and not wanting to share with people that you're working with somebody or that you're in, some people don't even like to admit they work with a therapist. And some of the stuff we go into, it has to do with your family or your mom or your dad or your grandpa. They'll be like, Bethany, what? This has nothing to do with business. I'm like, trust me, if this is what's coming up in front of everything, and we know we have our set intention of what we're looking to accomplish, it needs to be addressed.
Yeah. And we all have crap from our past, whether you realize it
Yeah.
or not. You could have observed something as a little kid and had zero control because you were a little kid, but how that impacted you or that impression on you, you're taking that forward. And years later, it's coming to fruition that it's not serving you, holding you back from success or not believing you can do it subconsciously, even though consciously you appear confident, whatever is going on. I mean, I'm sure you see a hell of a lot more than I do, but
Yeah.
it's again, that negative record player. It's there. We don't know when it's going to raise its volume. So you kind of help us lower the volume or get control of it. So we take our real estate in our brains back, if you will.
I like that. That's a
Isn't
great
that cool?
example.
Stick with me, kiddo.
Good metaphors. Yeah. I'll use that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all right. We can steal from each other. That's what we do.
Yeah.
I always give credit, though. I give credit where credit is due, right? I stole this
Right.
from Bethany. Do me a
Okay.
favor, Bethany. Explain how psychic intuition works in this business context. Like you're talking about moving energy and, the guy who was going to Thailand and how
Mhm.
can you ground that in examples of how you get that to kind of work?
Oh, okay. I'm going to give it a shot.
Okay. I know that's a big
Because
question, right?
I know it's like some people really want me to have a process, like CEOs, they want me to have this whole process, and I have created like spreadsheets and stuff for them to appease that part of their brain. But the reality is, when I'm working with someone, we have a goal. So whether I'm working with them for, one day, one session, 3 months, 6 months, I usually do 6-month things, but we
Yeah, you need
have a
time.
goal. So it might be to go from 3 million to 6 million, or like the other guy, apparently the 8 million to 16 million, he didn't even tell me, but he was on the verge of bankruptcy. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, well, I see the possibility of you selling your company in like a year. He's like, no. And sure enough, he had offers a year later.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, so when I'm working with them, we have a goal. And then typically, if I were just to go into like standard practices, I would say I dive into, whether they're a CEO that started the company or where they came in, because that's two different energies and emotions.
Yeah.
What the passion was at the time. So we kind of go back to the history of how it all started to kind of ignite that again. And
Mm.
then we have our goal, and then basically whatever comes through to heal, I will intuitively start healing right away, depending on how open they are, or I'll literally put them into like a meditation where they're like laying down. And sometimes I've hung up the phone and people are just snoring, sleeping. It doesn't matter because I record it. They can listen to it again if they really want to. But what's happening, even if they're sleeping, it's just that their consciousness isn't ready for it. So their subconscious is taking it, the healing. So I don't know. Did that ground it for you?
Yes. So, okay, we'll use just as an example, right? So let's say you're
Yeah.
working with me. How
Yeah.
talk to me. What is that? Because I know people are like, well, this sounds really good, but how does she
Yeah.
do it? So give me an example of how you take people, because there's got to be steps. There's got to be something you ask the people to
See,
do.
everyone wants steps. Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
I want steps.
I know. Oh man. So yeah, I mean, we sit down, we have our conversation. What's your goal? Usually it's increased revenue. So then I'm going to be like, okay, I can scan if I do it like the real analytical way with my spreadsheet. I literally have all these things I'll scan through
Okay.
and I'll intuitively get a percentage. So whether it's like marketing, advertising, operations, wherever it is in the company, I can intuitively say where their energy is. Like, is it optimal or not? And so I can put in down a percentage, like 50%, 60%, 90%. And then I always do one for the CEO because they are responsible for it all. So I'll do that for the business and then I'll do it for the CEO. Now, if I'm not necessarily doing it that way, I can literally just tune in and be like, okay, I want to see her business right now. And usually I will see a version of a rocket. Like that's what I usually see. So is the rocket sideways? Is it fired up? Is it slanted? Is it in the air? Where is it? Because ideally, if the rocket is launched and in its, whatever, best state. The word's
Explosive,
not
right?
coming to me.
Explosive. It's explosive
Yeah,
then.
you're lifted off, you're going, you're strong, you're in the universe. That's where we ultimately want to be. And usually when I tune in, it's like I get a lot of slanted, or
Oh
like I
yeah.
said, the quicksand with a person, I might see that around the bottom. So it's
Yeah.
kind of stuck. Or you might see like a lot of workers, like this thing is malfunctioning. So I can just tune in and see that right away. But like, I've also worked with CEOs where it's like, I tune in, I'm like, oh my God, you're like running on a treadmill. You're going uphill, you're sweating, but the good news is you're smiling. But when I think of, or you're not, you know, but if you think of a treadmill uphill, metaphorically, that's going to be a challenge. Like these are just visuals that I see. I also hear. So
Mm,
I'm pretty much all the senses are open. They'll
that's
have the
wonderful.
clairvoyant, all the different versions, but I get them all, and I'm tuning in with the intention of what we're looking to create. And then I'm calling in all the guides and the angels, basically your team, to support us in like my team and communicating with them to like figure out the best plan of action and how to like get this rocket in the air or get this treadmill out of the way so that you're actually on the road or something. Not
Did
in one
you
place.
did
Yeah.
you have this capability as a child and didn't realize it or pushed it down? I'm just curious.
I do wonder. My mom is super intuitive as well. She's
Mhm.
more on the super religious side. So she goes to church every single day. When I was young, I don't know, I don't remember exactly how old, let's say 7 or 8.
Mm.
She did pull me to witness a miracle, and I saw the sun dancing. She felt
Wow.
called to come. Because it was like, I don't know, 5 in the morning or something. So she woke me up. She's like, I was told to come get you, and I was told it was going to be safe. So I know she's in communication, but we don't talk about it too much because it's like two different trains of thought. So it's like I'm meditating, communicating. She's going to church and praying. It's essentially the same thing.
It is. Yeah. 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 I totally get that. Right. You could call it like, you could call it God, you could call it universe, you could call it source, right? So everybody, whatever's comfortable for you to
Yeah.
digest, but you want people to digest it. So do you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's really what you're
And
talking
that's
about.
another thing I do with people. I'm like, what do you believe in? I always say, what do you believe in? If you were to pray, who would you pray to? And one of my clients is the ocean. Like, she doesn't believe in God, she believes in the ocean. I'm like, that's fine. Let's pray like, I just need you to have some faith, because having faith in something
Yeah.
opens you up for the new possibilities.
So just fascinating. It's funny that you say that. I have a friend in Canada and she reads the Akashic Records, which
Oh
is
yeah.
just our soul's library. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so one day we were, she was doing a reading on me, and she says, you were a mermaid in a past life, which strikes me so funny because people hear this, they go, she said, what? And they go, what did you say? And I go, I was like, yeah, it probably was. I live for the water. When I
Mm-hmm.
was a little kid, I would be blue and shrivelly, by the time I would come out. To me, the water is life, right? So when
Mm-hmm.
we have a house down the shore on the Jersey Shore, and that's, I tease because we'll go down and I'll work from down there, and then we play at night, go to the beach or whatever. And I said to my husband, oh my God, I had so many great ideas today. Oh my God. And I think with clarity, I'm at peace, I'm in joy because I could look out my window, see the water, all of those things. The water talks to me. So that's why I'm giggling when you said the
Yeah.
water is
Well, that's
her.
what I was telling her, because she was in this like whole panic attack recently. And I'm like, I really feel like there's something here for you with the ocean. You need to like hang out with the ocean and learn to communicate with the ocean. Like, there's a conversation and you're going to bring it to life and
Yep.
share with the world or something. But yeah.
Yep. And it's true. So whatever, I mean, some people see a sunset and feel that nirvana or that
Mhm.
soul experience, right? The other thing, I've been working literally, Bethany, for the past 22 years, trying to connect and hear my guides and listen to their nudges, if you will, right? Through numerology, whatever it is. So recently there's a place right here on the Jersey Shore, and they do an aura reading. It's a
Mhm.
picture of your aura. And my husband and I did a joint one. Well, mine, I had 5 orbs above my head And I was like, oh, what is, and yes. And they said, oh, it's your guides. But my aura was very green. And so they were in the green and my heart was in the green. And so the reader, the person who analyzes the picture, the image, she said, she goes, you listen to your guide. You have a very good open relationship, and you're very receptive. That's why they're showing on your thing. But the green and the green is the connectivity. So my husband was with me, he goes, you know how long she's been working on that? So, but Bethany, it was like confirmation. I go, oh, I'm getting really good at this.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Oh, cool. So yes, Belmore, a mineral shop, guys, check it out. Love that store. Anyway, so
and your guides can change over time too. I've had
say that again.
Some move on, and
guides can change. Yes, yes. But again, that intuition, divine downloads, again, whatever you call it, I guess. But is that what we're talking about? Opening ourselves up to fill in the blank, right? What is possible?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm getting the guidance. Like, even I was at oh my gosh, this just shows like the power of when I've worked with a client so long. I haven't worked with her in maybe 8 months or something. We worked for almost a year, I think 2022.
Cool.
And I saw her at a wedding and she's like, oh, Bethany, I have this question for you. I'm like, oh man, here we go. So she starts asking me this question about a situation with a building she was in purchase of, and And I'm like, oh yeah, I get a no on this. This is not feeling good. You need to go back and ask for more, or something like that. It was because she's in partnership with somebody. This was on a Friday night at about 10 p.m. We were having this conversation, left the wedding. It was in Chicago. So it ended up being still about 10 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The guy calls on a Friday. He's like, I don't care anymore. We can just do it your way. And she tells me the next day, I'm like, you're welcome. Because it was like just her having that conversation with me about what she wanted. And she already knew what she wanted. I was just confirming it, which I didn't know until, I did. And then she's like, yeah, that's how I feel too. And I'm like, so I basically confirmed it, like what you were saying, when you've worked with people, and then boom, it like allowed the magic to happen. And she got what she wanted. Like,
yeah, we allow it
on a Friday night at 10 p.m.
at a wedding. Who would think? But it's funny because you said the same thing though, when your friend said to you, you're really good at the psychic thing in business. You knew that, but it's somebody's else, just that other perspective from a different angle. It's what you needed to hear to say, why the heck am I not doing this? But here's the thing, you have to hear when your friend said, why are you including this with your business stuff? Right. We have to be open to hearing that and granting ourselves the permission to honor what others are saying that we know, but we have to hear it from others. So that's where sometimes I think we have a lot of the block, the mud, the quicksand that we get stuck in. Right.
Yeah. But we're just allowing because we were talking about the human self. So we're allowing all the energetic, the universal, the 5D to kind of line up through like intention and the space that I hold. I always say that I hold the container, which is, how we ended up with Zoe Space, because I hold a container for my clients.
Yes.
Through that container, they're able to like create.
Yes. So now, before we run out of time, I want you to tell everybody about Zoe, and you have a book, right?
Oh, yes. Yes.
So share about the book too, because I always want to spotlight my guests. Let's face it, right? People listen to a podcast 30 minutes and they're like, oh, I'm going to hire her. Maybe that could happen, right? Where you're the right person at the right moment. I believe that. But I also think people go, oh, she has a book. Oh, let me read the book. Oh, this Zoe thing. What is that? They test us to say, is she the real deal? Right. After listening to a podcast. And that's where I find we get some leverage. So talk about those two things for everybody, because they're both really cool.
Okay. And as far as working with me, discovery calls are free. So there's that.
Thank you. Thank you. I love that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So my book, Get Aligned Now, I released in 2019. It's funny. I was working with some publishers, but they were taking so long. And I was like, I don't know why. I just need to get this out this year. So I ended up releasing it 11/11/2019.
Love the date.
And we all know what happened in 2020. So it became very clear, but Get Aligned Now is kind of a journey. It's a 7-week journey of getting aligned to your own intuition. So even just to give you a result driven, one of my clients / friends read the book and walked into a deal, $1 million opportunity. And he's like, oh my God, based on what I read, it didn't feel good. I said no. And I was like, just stressing out that I made the wrong decision. It was the biggest deal ever, blah, blah, blah. 3 days later, he walks into another meeting, he gets another $1 million deal, and it felt amazing. So because he read the book, because he trusted the information, he got himself $1 million opportunity.
Cool.
Yeah. So that is actually free. Well, it's not free. It's on Amazon, Audible, you can pay, but I do have it for all the listeners today for free on my website. So you'll get the link. And then Zoe Space is something I just launched. This is the first time I'm publicly talking about it. It's Zoe, ZOE space.co. And it is something just in working with the CEOs, in wanting to support all the employees and really the world, because it's dark, it's heavy, and we need some light and love.
Yeah.
So I created a space where there's, with another person, another healer as well, where you can enter into different zones. So there's like the good vibe zone, the harmony zone, the accomplishment zone, peace. So whatever energy you really need in your life, you just log in, and through logging in, you are connected to the energy, and you might get so much more work done, or you just might feel better during your day. And it's just a beautiful energy. Like I was talking about the containers, it's basically a container to step into.
Yeah. It allows you to have the space subconsciously, because most of our decisions and life is led through our subconscious realm, yet we don't even know that's going on. So this is just a tool to almost open the door to our subconscious, so we can really get locked and loaded when we're working or dealing with deals, situation, employees, clients, CEOs. You mentioned the CEOs, that they're at the head, right? Think about being a CEO where you have hundreds or thousands of employees under you. That's a lot of responsibility and pressure. So that's why I'm not shocked that Jobs and some of these other, probably Brunson and some of these big players, they probably have psychic or intuitives that work with them on a regular basis, because you have such a burden. It shouldn't be a burden, but you have such a responsibility that you need someone like you to help you clear that space, so that we can honor those that report to us and support them to thrive and grow, et cetera. Because think about that. You have a thriving employee in your hierarchy of your organization, man, oh man, you're making more money at the top either. So it's this whole flow, I think, of energy. But the CEO, it's not always about the numbers. It is about the numbers, clearly. But you know what I'm saying? They should be giving that power to their employees as well. And you could do it by working with someone like you. So there's two edges to the sword, right? It's a lot of responsibility, and yet they can get some reprieve and clarity by working with a Bethany. We're out of time. So here's the deal, guys. You have a question, reach out to Bethany directly. Her email is bl@bethanylondyn.com. And London is LONDYN, not London like London, England. Website, bethanylondyn.com. All of this will be in the show notes, and the book, bethanylondyn.com/I am blessed. That's the book you were talking about, right?
Yep.
So please read it. And then the Zoe link, we could put that in the show notes as well. So since you're talking about it,
let's free trial on that.
Beautiful. So send me that link, and we'll put that in the show notes for you guys as well. Check it out. We need to create space in our lives and what we're doing to allow better and new things coming in. And this is so cool, because this is one of the last shows of the year for me, Bethany. And what a beautiful gift to give everybody for the new year, right? To start with that clarity, allowing space, working with someone like you if they feel stuck, or they're those crossroads, right? A new year, my business, what should I do? This is what I think I should focus on. Sometimes we just need to have those strategic calls to really find which direction we should head in. So we do it with confidence, right? That's part of the battle as well.
Conviction.
Yeah, I love that. Any other words of wisdom before we say bye?
This was so much fun. Hopefully everyone feels super supported, and start to look at your business and see what kind of rocket it is.
I can't tell you, when you said that image, I was like, is mine like on its last leg? It's tattered and worn out,
Oh no.
I love it.
Yeah. Something fun to play around with.
I just love the visual though. I'm a visual learner. So that
Mhm.
rocket, right? Depending on the positioning of it, that's just such a good visual. And the other thing I just want to end on this note, everybody, the whole peace on earth, man, oh man, do we need it? I think the world feels real heavy.
Yes.
We're entering an election year next year, right? It's a big year. So a lot of shifting is happening. I feel you can't control the world, but we certainly could control us and I like that word container, right? Our human container, our emotional container. But I think that again, check out these tools that Bethany is sharing with us, because it may be able to, again, free up the space, lighten the energy. And if I can lighten my energy, Bethany lightens her energy, and we have that whole ripple effect, we really can change the world together. So
one person can affect 750,000 people when you are at a like good vibe of love and above.
is that true?
750,000 proven by Dr. Oh my God, what's his name? I shouldn't say it if I don't remember his name right now. I'm blanking on his name, but Hawkins, Dr. Hawkins, Robert Hawkins.
That is so cool. I believe it. I do believe
Mhm.
it. You know, one last thing, right? As sometimes when I'm in a really good vibrational, my husband and I were having fun. It was just a good day. We're getting
Yeah.
a lot done, right? I like being productive. And we'll walk through a store. He laughs because people look at me and I go, is there something on my nose? And he goes, no, it's your energy, you moron.
Yeah.
Like people are just attracted to you. So it's
Yes.
funny that you say that, because it happens when I'm in a high frequency. People notice me, and I don't like to be noticed. I'm also tall, but I don't like to be noticed. But he'll say to me, everybody's looking at you because you're just in such a mood that
Vibing.
isn't that cool? So
And
this
it
stuff
lifts
is
everybody
real.
else. Like you're lifting, they're smiling right back at you.
There's
Yeah.
exactly. So 750. We're affecting 1.5 million, sister.
That's right. I love it. Yes.
I love you so much. Great
So much
show.
fun.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you.
being on. Yeah, a lot of fun. And I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together, no matter where you are in change in your life, your career, or your business. I really hope that my guests and I, or I truly hope my guests and I, give you some ideas, strategies, something different to think about so that you can create whatever that change is. We have the power. You just have to tap into it. And somebody like a Bethany out there doing her work might be exactly what you need. So again, please check out all of her information in the show notes. Check out my information in the show notes. Another thing, subscribe so you don't miss an episode with my amazing guests like Bethany. You want to tune in every week. Thank you again, my friend, for being on and sharing your brilliance.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in. You've been listening to Enlightenment of Change with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.com. I love you all. I am inspired by you, and I hope you are inspired by me and my guests. And I hope you take the information that's shared, do something with it, read the book, schedule a strategy call, do the Zoe web, log into the Zoe Space thing. I couldn't think of it. Log into Zoe Space, do something with the information you learned. I promise you magic happens on the back end. I love you all. I will see you next week. Have a great one. Be inspired.